Welcome back to another episode of Mama with the Good Hair. Thank you so much for being here. I'm your host, Jessica. If you have not already, go back and listen to part 1, all about hair consults. Today we're deep diving into part 2. Last week was all about why it's important to have customized routines and hair recommendations. And then today we're going to be kind of talking about the background, behind the scenes, how everything works, how I recommend products. So stay tuned. So as I'm going through all this, you can follow along. I have the link to the hair consult below in the show notes, so you can fill it out and kind of understand why I'm asking everything as I'm asking them. So the first thing is I have you do a few simple hair tests. So the first hair test I'm going to have you do is to figure out if your hair is fine or coarse. So you're going to take one single strand of hair and rub it between your fingers. You can close your eyes if you need to and tell me what you feel. Do you feel anything at all? Can't even tell if there's a piece of hair, or does it feel like a piece of straw? Like there's obviously a piece of hair there. That's going to tell me if you have fine hair or coarse hair, which is going to kind of make our options different versus what kind of shampoos and conditioners we use, because certain products can weigh down your hair if you have really fine hair. And we're talking about the individual hair strand here, not the overall hair on your head. If you have really fine hair and we use certain products, it gives it that like weighed down and greasy feel, which is what we don't want. So the next one, we're going to talk about how thin or thick your hair. So this is about how much hair is on your head. So think about when you put your hair in a ponytail. Is it very, very tiny ponytail? You have to wrap it around multiple times, or is your hair so thick that you can barely get one elastic around it one time? That is kind of the scale we're looking at. And then I always give an option of like somewhere in the middle, like it's not too thin, not too thick. It's the Goldilocks of hair. And that also helps us decide on what kind of products to use, if we should be using more serums and lighter products, or if we can use those heavy creams if you have like thicker, coarser hair. It just kind of gives us a range. What we're trying to do is narrow in on what kind of products you need. So this kind of sets the boundaries for what we can use. So then I'm going to ask you about your scalp and your ends. We treat them as two separate problems. So your scalp, I'm going to ask you, is it oily? Is it dry? Is it flaky? Is it kind of a mix of everything? Tell me about your scalp. We all know the scalp is the foundation of healthy hair. So if you're having any other issues, it typically stems from your scalp. So you really want to get your scalp in check first. So depending on what you say, if you're having any kind of scalp issues, I typically recommend some different oils, some apple cider vinegar, some products like that, scalp scrubs. I include different routines that you can do to kind of balance out the pH levels of your scalp, because usually something is a little bit out of whack. And then I'll recommend a shampoo, because your shampoo is focused on your scalp and your roots. So if you have a really dry scalp, I can recommend something a little bit more hydrating. But if you have really thin and fine hair, I might do something else that doesn't have quite as many oils in it. If you have a really oily scalp, I can recommend some stuff to help balance that out. So your scalp is what we really focus on for treatments and shampoos. So then I'm going to ask you about your ends. So your ends typically are different than what your scalp is doing, and I kind of let you choose a range of everything that's going on. Is it frizzy? Is it dry? Is it damaged? Tell me about your ends, basically. And then from the combination of all those, I can kind of get a better idea of what is going on and what kind of treatments and conditioners are going to be better for your ends. So if you have that really coarse, thick hair and really fried ends, I would probably recommend a really hydrating, deep condition. But if your ends are really fine, but maybe split, then I'd recommend something like damage repair, but nothing too heavy. So it kind of tells me a little bit more of the bigger picture and like what's going on and what kind of conditioners to use. So then I ask you if you have dyed or processed hair. This just helps me figure out if you need any kind of either damage repair products, if you need a purple shampoo, if you need color safe shampoos or hair products, things like that. It just kind of gives me a better idea of what we're looking at. If you said your split ends were split and dry and damaged, and you tell me your hair is processed blonde, then it kind of gives me a better idea that we need to do some damage control, versus if you don't have any dyed hair, then it might be a different issue. So the next question kind of goes into your environment, and here I kind of give you the option: is it dry desert environment, or is it hot, humid, tropical environment? Is it kind of both extremes, maybe maybe you're on a coast. Just kind of tell me what your environment is like, and I let you kind of choose some different things, because what I see a lot of time is a really extreme environment. So I see very, very hot, dry, altitude, very cold, like a lot of big swings. I see a lot of that because that's where a lot of hair problems occur. This kind of just helps me confirm that I am using the right recommendations for you product wise, and it also helps me determine if your issues are related to your environment or your products. So for me, like I said, in Hawaii, I was just adding hair masks to my hair when I really didn't need that. I needed hair oils. So if I don't know where you live, I could be recommending hair masks when you need hair oils or something like that. So it kind of really helps hone in on what the problem is, if your environment has anything to do with your hair problems that you're having. And then this is also good for if you live in a place with really extreme temperature differences, really hot and then really cold, then it's also a sign that you might need to change up your routine when the seasons change as well. For me, I live in a place where it gets up in the hundreds and then it drops down way in the negatives. So I know in the summer, my routine is going to be different than in the winter. And when you do a hair consult like that, I can kind of give recommendations based on the seasons as well. So you kind of know if you're going through the summer and then the seasons change and you notice something change in your hair, you can refer back to it and see what you need to start doing in the winter. Next, I have a section about hair loss on there. I was actually surprised how many people are dealing with hair loss or hair thinning or just want denser, thicker hair. I was shocked how many people answered this question. I dealt with postpartum hair loss, so I can recommend products based on that as well as other types of hair loss and thinning. This is kind of where I can add in growth serums, maybe a dietitian, lifestyle changes, things like that to kind of help boost your hair thickness. And then based on if you have like really fine hair, which is what the individual strand is, I can put you on some products that increase the density of the single hair strand, so your hair will be overall not so fine, versus if you have really thin hair where that includes increasing the amount of hairs on your head, I can also recommend products for that as well. So that's kind of where the hair loss and thinning corresponds to the type of hair. So next are some lifestyle questions. This is where I ask, how often do you wash and do you want to wash? So if you're currently washing your hair every day because you feel like you have to because it gets so oily versus but you only want to wash your hair once a week, we can start implementing a routine to accommodate that so you're not having to wash your hair every single day, and vice versa. Maybe some people like to wash their hair every day. That's great too. We just need to put you on a different routine. If you're a mom like me, I only wash my hair maybe twice a week, so I use a routine based on that schedule, and it kind of tells me, are you washing your hair because you have to wash your hair because it gets very oily and greasy? Are you washing your hair because you want to? This gives me an idea. If your hair is wet more often and you're washing more often, we need to implement some damage repair. Whereas if you're only washing once a week, then we need to implement some products to help remove all that extra buildup that you're going to get over time. So maybe some deep clean products, some apple cider vinegar, things like that. And then very last, I ask, what is the vision board for your hair? What do you want it to look like? Are you really interested in only washing once a week? Do you want thicker hair? Do you want longer hair? Do you want to be able to dye your hair blonde more often? Like, what are you really focused on? That way I can hone in any final products, any final recommendations, and really get you what you want. And then I also ask you to upload a photo of your hair just so I can get that last confirmation that yes, this is what your hair looks like. When you tell me all the things, I can visualize it in my head, but then when I get a photo, it just solidifies anything that I needed to confirm. So that is where I get my final products and routine recommendations and everything finalized. Once you've submitted your hair consult, you'll get a little freebie just straight immediately into your inbox. This is where I just kind of give a brief overview of everything. I give you some basic hair tips that you can start implementing right away that are just kind of good for everybody's hair types. Give you a few products I love that are recommendations, again, that are just kind of good for everybody. So you get that immediately. And then usually within a day or two, I get back to you personally. I go through each of these consults, really take the time and put these together. So it does require just a little bit of a wait because I do all these myself. I don't hire anybody to do them. It's one thing that I love about this business that I do. So then once I do go through your thing, I will reach out, ask you any other questions I need to, and get you that personalized recommendation. And that's it. That's how simple it is. So just a reminder that Hair Consult, it's completely free. It is the link in my show notes, so go ahead and take a look at it. And I hope this helped you understand why custom hair products are so important. If you've been struggling with getting the hair that you want and you've been getting a one-size-fits-all solution, that could be the reason, or it could be because your environment or your lifestyle. So that's why I am here to help build a routine that fits into your lifestyle and get you the dream hair you want. Thank you guys so much, and join us next week for our next topic. Thank you.